Hey guys, before we start, a quick shout out to Alpha Dog Nutrition for sponsoring this podcast. Alpha Dog products are now available at dusupply.com, and you can use code ALPHADOG15 at checkout for 15% off and a credit for free shipping to try it yourself. Now let's get you to your podcast.
Where's Fielder? He's gone to the dogs.
Welcome, friends, to the Gone to the Dogs podcast. Steve Fielder here, your host, one more time. Going down to the state of Georgia today to visit with some folks down there and talk about the Peach State Shootout. Georgia Youth Series of qualifying events that have been held this summer. And as you may recall, back in June, we had Caden Riley on to talk about this. And as we were mentioning earlier here before we started recording, October seemed a ways down the road back in June. But now we've actually had the final. And we're here with the winners today. And rather than mess up the names of these gentlemen, I'm going to let Caden, who's with us again. Caden, how you doing?
I'm doing good, man. Glad to be back.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, good to hear your voice, brother. And Caden has kind of been the spearhead of this thing. I know he's had some help there, and the clubs at several different locations stepped up and held qualifying events and all that. So I'm going to kind of turn this over to him a bit here and let him introduce our guest and talk a little bit about the finals that we had just this last weekend. And exciting times, and really looking forward to this story. So, Caden, tell us who we have on board today.
Well, after 8 qualifying hunts, the championship, and all the kids that participated, we finally crowned our winner, and we got him here today. The second place in the standings leader, as well as the winner of the Peach State Shootout Championship hunt, Gregory Mitchell. How you feeling, Gregory?
Good. How about you?
I'm doing good. Well, I'm probably not as good as you after winning, but I'm doing good.
Gregory, I'll jump in here and say it's nice to meet you and really glad to have you aboard. And, wow, second place in the standings and then winning the championship. That's a great run, buddy.
Thanks, sir. Nice to meet you as well.
Well, you're very welcome. Caden, do you have the stats, or maybe I should ask Gregory? Oh, and we also have Gregory's dad, Greg, with us. Greg, how are you today?
I'm doing fine.
Good. Well, I was privileged to have a dad that supported my coon hunting activities, and I know that means a lot to Gregory. And I just applaud you both. It's hard to beat those father-son teams. My dad was my truck man. I didn't have a driver's license when I started competition coon hunting, but my dad would drive me to the hunts. So it's just great to have you guys. Well, Caden, take us back a little bit. Tell us what's transpired here this year.
So we had our first qualifying event back in, I believe April it was, back in Claxton, Georgia. And we had 8 qualifying events, final one going down in August in Shellman, Georgia. And we had more and more kids jump in, compete as time came on, and 17 in total kids across the state competed in this event, 11 earning cast wins and 9 earning a berth to the championship. Unfortunately, we had a couple cancellations with a few kids being sick, so we ended up with 7 at the total final championship. We had 3 semifinal casts, and then 1 90-minute championship cast, which, as y'all all know, Gregory came out on top. So we had just a really good series. A lot of kids get a lot of good experience, and got their chance to do what they've seen their dad do for years. So I'm sure that meant a lot to them to have their time to shine.
Absolutely. Well, Gregory, I'd like to ask you, what did you find interesting about this to get involved with it?
My dad started back coon hunting a couple years back, and eventually I just kind of wanted to start hunting too. So, and then there was a youth hunt. That was kind of where I got started.
I see. Yeah. Where did you qualify your dog?
We went to Chatsworth, and I was hunting a 10-year-old female named Sue. We got actually the same dude that owns the dog that I won the championship with. We bought her from him, and I doubled up in cast wins.
That was back on June 8th, I believe.
Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm. So you doubled up on cast wins that night.
Yes, sir.
Well, that's pretty salty, man. You know, there's a lot of guys that go to Salem, Illinois and spend a lot of money trying to get that double cast win, you know, to advance in either the Super Stakes or the World Championship. And so you just go up there and take this, what'd you say, 10-year-old?
Yes, sir. She's a little older, but she's in really good health.
Tree and Walker?
Yes.
Okay, good. So,
Sunrise and Bone Collectors.
Oh, well, that's not too shabby. Bone Collector and Tequila Sunrise. That's great. You know, I'm old, and I was there when Noah took the first two Tree and Walkers off the ark. You know, but Tequila Sunrise was quite a winner back in his day, and then he turned out to be oh my goodness, I've got an emergency alert coming through here on my phone. I don't know how to get rid of that.
You should be able to just swipe it up, I think.
Yeah, I think I did. And everybody's calling me. I knew this was going to happen, and I'll interrupt our conversation here just a minute. Oh, man.
Oh, Lord.
You know what? I had not thought about that. It's the National Weather Service because we're facing a hurricane down here this week. And so and then my friend Randy Smith, the Lone Pine Tree and Walker guy up in Pennsylvania, is asking me if I'm evacuating. So, oh, man. Well, I apologize, but maybe we can edit some of that out. But at any rate, Tequila Sunrise, yeah, for sure, and then Bone Collector. What a stud dog he was. So that's some pretty good breeding right there for sure. Okay, so how many hunts did you hunt in this year to get second place in the standings?
I believe Somerville, Chatsworth, and Rydell.
Okay,
and then Carrollton, so 4.
Yeah, so you went to 4. Well, that's participating, brother. That's getting in there and playing the game. So you kind of went for it from the start. Was it that double cast win that prompted you to go on, or was that your goal from the start?
Kind of a mix of both. I kind of wanted to win the whole thing from the start, and then after that, I knew I could do it because I held down first for a good while.
Yeah. Well, ever since I interviewed Caden for the first time here on this podcast, you know, I kind of kept an eye on those standings as they'd come up on Facebook and so forth. And I think it was a great idea, you know, to get the kids involved and get them something. You know, this is like a miniature version of a Purina race or something like that, you know, at a state level, or like maybe like a state race, but based on qualifying events instead of just dollars earned. But Looking back, Gregory, over the year, was there a particular cast that you remember as being, either, memorable in some way? I mean, you really enjoyed, or maybe one you had to do a comeback move or whatever, anything like that?
Yeah, I would say the semifinal round in the championship, because we went up. It was just a 2-dog cast. We went up a good dog named Turk, and nothing really happened for most of the hunt. But then all of a sudden, it was like we started walking, and they were 1,000 yards away, and they finally split up. And Chaos, the dog I was hunting, got treed about a mile away. He got plussed up, and then had to walk all the way back. Turk got treed, and we walked all the way back, and it was determined because he had first strike who won it, and he didn't have it. He got circled up. So,
wow,
and
that was a
pretty good, pretty good rivalry throughout the series, because they drew each other a pretty good amount of times.
Big rivalry.
I
think they drew each other 5 times in total.
Oh, man.
Gregory won like 3 times, and Case won 2, and it was always the last 3 that decided it. It was always someone would tree coon, someone else would get treed, and then be either they'd have a coon win or they'd miss and the other guy'd win.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Was it?
We had a lot of fun.
Greg, did you make all those walks?
I did, sir. Ask Caden. Me and Corey both made all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had to keep telling y'all to hold back, because I could tell y'all were wanting to handle. Y'all wanted the kids to have it. Y'all's instinct was kicking in to handle.
Yeah, adrenaline rush.
We are too. We had a lot of fun with them.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's great to hear that, because that's what this game is supposed to be, fun.
Yes, sir.
It's a sport. It's recreation. It's a lot of fun. And when you've got a good dog that's competitive, it really is an incredible game. And I've done a lot of pieces over the years about the history of competition hunting, and how those guys sit around, and first they had just what we call subjective judging. It was up to what the judge thought about the dogs as to which one won, and that didn't work out very well. And then they devised a set of rules, put them on a scorecard, and that made things a whole lot better. But from the get-go, it was just a great game to play with the hounds, and obviously you get that, Gregory. And I got to ask you now, when you made that first long walk and you've got your coon, you got to be feeling real good there. But now you've got to go back. Now, if he's got a coon, does he beat you?
Yes, sir. He had first strike. So.
I gotcha. So the pressure is on. That's a long walk, wasn't it?
Yes, sir.
A real long walk. A rough walk.
No, it was a amount of ewes. It was a bunch of ewes.
Oh, so it wasn't a walk in the park, as we say.
Where Turk was treed at the final bit, he was up. I'm talking about like you're had to crawl uphill. Because we walked. Most of that walk was hills, and we thought he was down on a creek, and we looked up and saw him straight up, and we were struggling to just get up there to score it personally.
My dad had an expression. We hunted in West Virginia in the mountains. He said that ridge was as steep as a cow's face. That's pretty steep, but. Yeah, so we got up there, and what do you have? Just a big leafy tree, a den, or what?
Yeah, he had just a big leafy tree. I mean, you could see a good portion of it, but we're about 2 weeks away from really being able to see the whole things over here. There's still some trees that have a few too many leaves on them, but
yeah, and it went into some more trees, and it was just tough trees.
Yeah, that's coon hunting for sure. But, you had to be feeling pretty good at that. Was the hunt over by the time you scored his tree?
Yes, sir. It was. I think it was just about over after we scored. After we scored Chaos's tree, the doghouse.
Yeah.
Yeah, the dogs were on the ground for about 55 minutes, and we were walking most of the way because they just kept plowing through.
Mm-hmm.
And we hear Chaos come treed, and then Case trees Turk back over here. So we were. It was probably an hour after the hunt by the time we had finished everything, scoring everything.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's an exciting finish. That's the way to do it, really, to make those memories. And well, I don't know where to go with this, Caden. I want to back up just a minute and let you just kind of give me an overview of how you thought the Peach State Shootout went overall, and the participation of the youth hunters that participated and all that. Overall, how do you rate this thing?
I think it went pretty well. It was a pretty slow starting series because, like I think we talked about last time we were on here, it's kind of hard to reinvent the wheel because this was the first version of this hunt. The people aren't as quick to hop on as they would be for a hunt that has a little more recognition. But we found a pretty consistent group that would go to all the hunts. And that was pretty good to see because you got to watch each of them get better over time and progress over time. And you got to see Case and Gregory specifically compete over and over again and learn and adapt and stuff like that. So that was what I enjoyed most about the series, was that we got a consistent group that I feel like will continue, or at least I hope will continue into the future. So that was really what made the series go. About halfway through, a little bit after I talked to you, we were able to get about 6 to 8 kids that tried it and really, really liked it and kept going to all the qualifiers. And they drove a long way.
Mm-hmm.
They drove a long, long way. Because the hunts were spread out across the state.
Right.
And they were picking up and going to every single one. So all the kids who made the championship, that's why we try to get them trophies and shirts and stuff like that, because they put in the work for it.
Well, I see that. And I look here, there was some money involved.
Yes,
looks
sir.
like $1,000.
Yeah, Gregory would be holding that now.
Gregory, did your dad make you put that in your college fund, or?
No, sir. I got to keep half of it. We gave the other half to Russ, who owned the dog.
I see. Yeah. Well, that's a pretty good payday.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this competition game has gotten really big in terms of awards. Of course, the entry fees have gotten big too in order to provide those kinds of awards. Does this give you any desire to maybe compete at a higher level someday?
Yes, sir.
That's attractive to you, huh?
Yeah.
Well, I look
We've
at...
been to some bigger hunts like that. We went up there to Salem, Illinois to that $100,000 hunt or whatever, and he had fun up there. We won a cast on Friday night.
Oh, okay. So you've already been playing with the big boys.
He wasn't handling, but yeah, we went and he enjoyed it.
That's the way to. That's definitely the way to segue, because that's how I always got started. Just walking with my dad, seeing all the circumstances that kind of rise up. Because there's only so much you can learn from just reading the rules.
Yes.
So the more you go walk, the more you see, the better you're going to be whenever you start going into it. And Gregory already, I mean, he's pretty much with the big boys now. Whenever they go to a hunt, they draw him out separate. He's right there along with us. Gregory is a coon hunter that happens to be a youth, not a youth coon hunter, as I'll put it. We treat him the exact same, and he can handle it, and he does well, and he wins his fair share, clearly. He wins his fair share.
Well, back in my day, we didn't have youth hunts. And I've kind of laughed over the years saying, they just threw us to the wolves. We had to get out there and kind of
way to learn.
paying those $30 lessons.
Yes, sir.
But it is a way to learn. And if you love it and you really want to do it, you're going to hang in there. And at any point, that brings up a point, Gregory, at any point during the year, did you think about, well, I don't know whether I ought to really try to go to the championship, or were you focused on it all year long?
Well, a little bit. I also rodeo, so that also came up.
Okay. So what do? You ride broncs, bulls, rope?
No, sir. I rope, yes.
Rope, okay. You a header or a heeler?
Both.
Both, okay. You got a pretty good horse?
Yeah, I got a couple good ones.
All right. Awesome.
Yeah, he's either roping or coon hunting. That's what he's doing. He goes back and forth.
Well, that's great. I have a lot of respect for rodeo. And I don't want to get on politics here. But, rodeo is one of the professional sports that's remained very strong patriotically. The rodeo has been unwavering, in their support for our country, and I appreciate that about rodeo.
Yes.
And I had the opportunity to go down to South Texas on a bobcat hunt with hounds with Shorty Gorham. And I don't know if you guys know who Shorty is, but
Yes, we do.
yeah.
How was that? A lot of fun, I bet.
That was a blast. I mean, it was incredible. I'll tell you real quickly just give you a little view of what we did. I was with the Houndsman XP podcast at that time. Chris Powell and I were partners. And we went down to interview Shorty and to take a hunt with him and do a podcast down there. I believe that day he took 13 hounds. Now, these are foxhounds, but they've been bred for cat hunting for generations there in Texas. And they're not tree dogs per se, but they will tree. And we just took those hounds out and turned them loose and drove those ranch roads. Excuse me. I've still got the effects of a virus that I had earlier in the year. It won't leave me alone. But anyway, they just fan out and go looking for a cat track. And then when one of them opens, man, they all 13, just like there's a magnet pulling them, sucks them right in there, and the chase is on. And man, can they burn one up. And it's in that scrub and cactus, and they got white brush and black brush and all this stuff. And when the cat trees, he goes up a mesquite tree, which is not very big, not very tall. And you can see him up there, And, it was just an absolute blast. But anyway, as spending time with Shorty, learned quite a bit about professional rodeo and some of the things there. So that's a great sport for you, too. Absolutely. That's a lot better. That roping's a lot better than strapping yourself on the back of 1,200 pounds of dynamite.
Bulls might eat, not the ride.
I guess. I'm with you, brother. Well, okay. So anyway, Caden, tell us a little bit about the sponsors and the prizes and how all this thing came together.
Well, I started raising back before the hunt even, the first qualifier even took place. And everything for this had to be raised. So we ended up with $1,500 total payout, 1,000 for first, 300 for second, 200 for third. Hats, sweatshirts, T-shirts for all 9 kids, which, as I'm sure you know, in today's economy, racks up a little bit of a bill. as well as some other prizes and stuff like that. So we had to rely on some very generous people to donate money for us to have this, one of which is Gregory's dad, Greg, who donated very considerable amount to help us put this whole thing together. And it was cool seeing everybody come together to help put this on for the youth, because I think that everybody can agree how important it is that the youth get to be exposed to this sport. And it was, the cool thing about this is with Gregory winning 1,000, a lot of people never win 1,000 at one time. I mean,
Right.
it is it's a high pressure thing to be hunting for $1,000. I mean, I'd be about as nervous as you can get if I was hunting for $1,000. So it was an opportunity for them to compete on a grand stage while still being able to learn and stuff like that, and not have the pressure of some major entry, but to be able to have that experience. And that was all just because of some very generous people that volunteered, that stepped up, that donated. Not only the people who donated money, but the people who offered to host clubs. To shout out to our friend Johnny. He stayed late, very late, and judged the championship cast. And we had Lamar Pettyjohn, who came over and judged one of the semifinal casts.
I know
offered,
Lamar. I've known him for quite some time.
He's a great guy.
Absolutely.
He's a great guy. And we had Matt, who offered to host the hunt and met me over there early and set up all the decorations and the food and stuff like that. And he also judged the semifinal cast. This was, as much as, I could be the figurehead or whatever, it was genuinely a group effort, not only for our area of Georgia, but every other area. And it's rare to see that type of collaboration, because that's what it takes to put something like this on and to give the kids this type of platform and opportunity. So I'll be forever grateful for all they did to help me out with this.
We got a lot of good people.
Pretty special. We do.
What's that, Greg?
I said we have a lot of good people up in this area.
Oh, absolutely, you do. And, coon hunters across the country are known for stepping up when they need to. When it's out there on a 2-hour cast or a 90-minute cast or whatever, it can be, your cast members aren't your best friends sometimes.
No, sir, they're not.
But when
they are after it's over.
After it's over, exactly. But when somebody has a need, the podcast that's playing this week as we're recording this is called "Gone to the Dogs." With the about the Appalachian houndsmen and what they're going through right now with this hurricane. And the devastation in western North Carolina and eastern Tennessee is almost beyond belief. I mean, it is beyond belief because nothing like that has ever happened there before. And
I know.
And
I have a friend that lives up there, and he says it's bad.
It's incredibly bad, but the people are stepping up. People are just going over and above to try to help those, that have lost everything. And without going into all the details of that, and that's ongoing. I've been real busy here the last couple of weeks just trying to pass information back and forth between these people that are, you get people out in Missouri, say, I've got a trailer load of stuff here to go, all ready to go. Where do I go? Who needs it the most? Where can we be of help? So to hear that yourself, Greg, and others are stepping up, to help the youth is very, very encouraging to me. And of course, I worked for PKC at one time, and our youth championship was one of my favorite events. I loved it at Aurora when the youth came to town on Friday and Saturday night for the youth championship in conjunction. At that time, it was in conjunction with the World Hunt. But, Caden, I wanted to ask you, what would you do? What would you say to a group of coon hunters in another state, let's say, that has seen what you've been able to do over there. And we know the numbers weren't huge. You didn't have 500 entries and all that, but you had a very solid program that people like Gregory, got involved in and enjoyed. What do you say to those people if they want to do something like this?
I would tell them that even if you don't have a lot of youth in your state, and we don't in Georgia, we're not a very, we don't have a lot of youth coon hunters in this. I mean, there was not all that long ago when I went to the youth state championship back when I was in the program, and there was 3 people. So had to be rose up from the ground up and get people involved. And it's a lot of work to put on something like this and to get everybody ready. And you may not have the mind blowing numbers or the crazy payout or stuff like that people put so much emphasis on. But when it's worth it is whenever you see the impact it makes, even on one person.
Yeah.
And you get to see how much it means to them and how much of an impact you've had on them. And I think 10 out of the 11 cast winners that won a cast in this hunt, this was their first ever cast win. And that makes it all the worth. How many memories were made throughout this, not only in the championship, but on those long summer nights where people were staying out till 3-4 a.m. with their parents and with their dog. And that makes it all. That makes it worth
absolutely
everything.
And and I also have to think that you've reached that kid probably that doesn't have the parental support that Gregory has. Yes, maybe maybe dad's not in the home for whatever reason, or is just totally disinterested.
We had a lot of we had kids that did not have a dad around, that didn't have someone who would buy them the equipment, who would buy them the dog, who would buy them whatever they needed. And we had people that stepped up and offered and said, whoever has a kid that you think would be interested, just give me a call and we'll give them that chance. And because a lot of the kids that got brought to these hunts weren't brought by their dad, who they don't have that.
Yeah.
And we had, again, talking about the people stepping up.
Right.
And sometimes it takes that. We get so caught up in just kind of what we're doing. And then we see what other people are going through, and we then realize what our main purpose is for, and that's to help people and to help give people those experiences that we were all blessed to have. So this was a whole top to bottom people wanting to help and wanting to give the youth a really cool platform. And that's what I think this hunt's legacy will be.
Sure.
Not the money, the big name dogs, the whatever it may be. It was the fact that everybody stepped up and everybody gave a lot of really cool experiences to a lot of these kids. That I talked to one of the parents before the championship hunt, and they said that this was probably the best thing that their kid had ever been involved in.
Wow.
And that was a big thing for me to hear, is because I get so caught up in the planning of it all and the raising money and stuff like that. And then you hear that and you're like, that's worth it. That's what it's all. That's what it's all about. And
well,
special.
Yeah. Well, Greg, what's been your best takeaway from this whole thing?
I like to see all the kids hunting, and I like to see my son hunt and the competition.
Yeah.
Like he said, there were some kids, that they would never got to coon hunt if it wasn't for that. They would probably never have been coon hunting. They got to come out and hunt, knowing they really had fun, I think.
Yeah. Well, Gregory, you mentioned there that your dad got back. I believe you got back into coon hunting, Greg. You'd been a coon hunter before. Did I hear that right?
Sir.
Yeah.
Yes. I hunted from the time I was 10 to, 22 or 23. And then I mainly just roped after that. And then I got back into coon hunting about 2.5 years ago, I think.
I see.
But I
Well,
loved it when I was a kid. I loved everything. I saw I would live, sleep, and breathe coon hunting.
yeah, boy, I remember those days for sure. My listeners have heard me say this before, but, we lived in a part of the country where there weren't any organized coon hunts. Back then, UKC was it, or maybe ACHA, but very, very little of that. But a night hunt, a licensed night hunt, was not something that was right around me. It was probably 100 to 130 mile drive, either over into western Virginia or up into eastern Ohio, and maybe in the northern part of West Virginia. And I would get the magazines and I would see the advertisements for the hunts, and I wanted to go so bad. And my dad was a pipe fitter, and he worked away from home during the week and would be home on weekends. So it was difficult for him to turn right around and go back, drive that far, to when he had things he needed to be doing at home. But as it got a little older and all, it worked out that we did start going to a few night hunts together. And those are memories that I'll never forget. And that's one of the things that I wanted to mention to Gregory is that, you are the first Peach State Shootout champion. Nobody else will ever have that title. They can't take that away from you. Now, they may win the event next year if there is one, but you're the first. How's that feel? Gregory?
I better be packing a coon dog.
Yeah. Better be packing a coon dog, huh?
Yeah.
And something that was very important to me was, like we talked about, everything because it is the first, you got to be everything's very important because this sets the tone for the however many years that this hunt goes on. And I was so glad that the person who won it is a person that sets the right example for other kids who are looking to do this hunt in the future. And Gregory's dad, Greg, sets the right example for dads who want to get their kids involved. There was a UKC hunt going on right that night. And unfortunately, some dads would have probably said, all right, you stay home and let me go handle. Greg made sure that his boy had a great dog and had the equipment and had the time to learn how to win. And that's an extremely important thing that the people who won the first hunt did it the right way, because that's going to encourage dads to get their kids involved for the next years. And that's going to encourage kids to get involved for the next years because they're going to want to be like Greg and Gregory. And can't be understated how important that is.
Absolutely. Gregory, are you still with us?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay, good. Well, what would you say, Gregory, was, what's the most fun thing about this competition hunting to you? What do you enjoy most about it?
Winning.
It's time to gather the eggs, it sounds like.
Yeah. Not just winning, but, being with friends and all that stuff, that's pretty fun. But winning is pretty fun.
Winning's pretty fun. Beats losing, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, what is it about your dog that made him a winner, do you think?
I don't know. He's a really good dog.
He's just a good coon dog, honest coon dog. Trees coons.
Their dog,
Fred.
Their dog does his job every time. That's what made Gregory, and him so hard to beat in the championship was they just did their job.
Consistency.
A lot of dogs don't do consistency. You drop him, he was going to tree coon, and he treed the only coon both rounds because he's just going to do his job, and Gregory's going to do his job. Doesn't matter conditions or anything like that. They're gonna do what they need to do to win, and that's rare that happens so consistently.
Yeah, well, the consistent dog like that is very, very hard to beat. Do you get butterflies when you're out there handling Gregory? A little nervous, a little at times, or are you cool all the time?
Yeah, yes, sir. When I had the old female, I wasn't as nervous because I already knew her. I hunted with her a bunch. And then also when my dad was out there, he made me pretty nervous. And then, in the championship, that hunt, I had only hunted with that dog, the Chaos dog, like only twice before, or once before actually. So it was a little nervous to make sure I could, have his bark down, his tree down, and all that.
Mm-hmm. What importance do you put on knowing your dog in the night hunt? Is that something you try to do, really know your dog, or you just rely on, like so many, try to rely on your Garmin or
No, I see, with him, he knows how to lay up so he can look up trees, so you can never really go off your Garmin. You kind of just have to listen to him bark and get everything down.
I see. So you are learning the basics of coon hunting. You probably got them all down pat, sounds like. But
yeah, he's pretty tough with that old dog, Sue. He knows her pretty good.
Yeah.
Well, he knows that dog more than most people know any dog.
Well, we try to preach that on here, with various guests and all, how important it is to know your dog. And we get this in all points of life. I'm getting are you guys hearing that call come in on my phone?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's unfortunately the way we're doing this. I can't really do much about that. But
power of editing, hopefully.
Pardon?
Power of editing, hopefully.
I still didn't
edit
understand.
it out. So the power of editing, hopefully.
Oh, well, some of that, yeah, they can take some of that out. But the way we're doing this now, all three of you are on the same channel. And so that kind of makes that difficult. But anyway, we'll get through it. Like I say, it's not sterile. it's coon hunters talking coon dogs. So, but anyway, we try to tell new hunters and younger hunters to learn the dog. Put the electronics away. Use it if you have to find your dog when the hunt's over or whatever. But listen to your dog. Know your dog. And I know electronics have creeped in and play a lot bigger part in a night hunt than I would prefer that they do. Because I know, because they do help the handler. They do influence the outcome of the hunt. There's no way around it. They do. But also the trade-off in being able to catch your dog out, get him out of harm's way, or recover them at the end of the hunt and so forth. Those dividends are huge. So, but it's the nature of the beast nowadays. But back in my day, had none of that. None. We had a cow horn hollowed out that you blew like the fox hunters did when you wanted your dogs to come back in at the end of the hunt. And you had a compass to navigate you around and so forth. But, well, anyway, I want to congratulate everybody involved in this, especially Caden for having the idea, for Chris Freiberger there at PKC. He's been fairly supportive, hasn't he, Caden?
He's been extremely supportive.
Yeah.
He was calling, asking for updates night of. I saw him up there at the Super Stakes, and he took the time to pull me aside and thank me and ask how it was going and stuff like that. So he's another one, like we were talking about, stepping up. And everyone doing their part, and he most definitely did.
Yeah. Well, all the coon hunting organizations are blessed to have some good people involved. And, the people that are doing those kinds of jobs are doing it because they love it. They're not doing it because they're drawing a big paycheck to do it. And he obviously cares about the youth of the sport. And also, hats off. Now, I wanted to ask you about this. Were all of these qualifying events? I mean, did the money count for the youth national youth race and that sort of thing?
Yes, and my actual favorite part about the whole hunt was before I made it a point to go in and look at the youth standings, because I was trying to see, like, do we have money youth in Georgia? And we had one person that had won anything throughout the year in the youth. And then I looked back and I could see the races and standings, and I'd see just GA, 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 GA. So it went to youth standings, it went to state standings, and it went to all that. It was treated just like a normal weekend hunt.
Well, that's kudos to you and Chris for setting it up that way, and as it should, for sure. Gregory, have you been to the national? Well, what do they call the National Youth Hunt now? We used to call it the National Youth Championship, but I think it's changed now, hasn't it?
There's the Youth World, and then which they just had, and then there's Youth National. So those are the two biggest youth.
Okay. So they've added, So they've added the Youth World then since I was there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool. Well, Gregory, have you participated in either of those hunts?
No, sir. We was thinking about going to them, but it was right at the time. It was getting closer, and the older female, she kind of had an abscess kind of pop up on her, and then I didn't really know any other dog good enough where I was felt confident to go up there.
Well, that gets back to what we were talking about before. You didn't want to go unless you knew your dog. And I think that's great advice for anybody that wants to, say again, Glenn?
I
Greg,
do too. I'm sorry. You know your dog.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Sure. Greg and Gregory are they're people that if they're going to do something, they want to feel confident that they can do it right. One of the reasons that he got second in the standings was they committed to it, and one of the reasons they won was they committed to it. So whenever they go in, they go all in. They're not half in anything. I think is an important quality if you want to win coon hunting, and I think Greg's a good teacher to Gregory on that. Is that you can't put half effort and expect full results.
Yeah, exactly. I think it was Jerry Mall that used to print this quite often, and I think it was the words maybe of, I don't know, Vince Lombardi, football coach maybe. I'm not sure which one, but it says the will to win is not nearly as important as the will to prepare to win.
Yes.
And, did you do a lot of hunting during the week, getting ready for these hunts, Gregory, or did you mainly just take him to the hunt?
Especially before the championship, I had to make sure I had to get to know that dog. So that was a big part.
And you say the dog belongs to whom?
Russ Covington.
Okay. Yeah. And he's there in North Georgia, is he?
Yes.
Sir.
Uh-huh.
And quick side note, anyone who knows Russ would absolutely agree with this. He's as good a guy as you'll ever find. And you're not going to find a guy better than Russ. And any hunt doesn't matter. He's one of the ones who donated to this hunt, actually, before Gregory even asked him about his dog or anything like that. Before he had any ties to this hunt, he was the second or third person who reached out wanted to donate. And he stayed out right along with us at the championship hunt when we were out till 6 a.m. Finishing that hunt. So just wanted to give him his recognition real quick, because he's a great guy.
And Johnny Hyatt's a good guy too.
He stayed at the club. So
who is this? Johnny who? Johnny who?
Johnny Hyatt.
Hyatt. Okay.
And we are on the same hunting lease, and he knew I was wanting to go back late for the late round. So he drove over there to meet the cast over there and offered to judge. Didn't have a kid in it, didn't have a dog in it, didn't have anything. But he's one of the people that lives, eats, and breathes the sport. and
Yeah.
he knows how important the youth is. So he wanted to make sure that championship was done right. So we were lucky to have him guide in the late round, and he did a great job.
Yeah. Well, I look here at these contact people on these qualifying events, and I see a lot of coon hunters that I know. And these people were vitally important, I would say, in putting this series together. You've got Curtis Todd in Claxton, Georgia. Now, Curtis is an English man, as I recall.
He is. He's got a good one.
Nathan Tilson at Gillsville.
Yes, and he's actually owns that Turk dog we were talking about earlier. He's one of the partners on that Turk dog.
Okay. You have Nicholas Brown at Chatsworth.
Yes.
He's
around us. He hunts with us a pretty good bit.
Here's a name we know and love, Caden Riley at Rydell. Rydell. Is it Rydell or Rydell?
Rydell, yes, sir.
Rydell.
That's also where we hunted the championship cast at.
Okay.
And none of this could have happened if it wasn't for Caden. He had a lot of time he put in it.
Oh, absolutely. And, we'll blow his head up a little bit here, Greg. When I had him on the podcast before and I got several comments, this is a very, very bright young man, and a man that's wise beyond his years. And I was going to say something earlier to Gregory about, enjoy this now, because this is not an old man sport. When you get to be my age, you'll understand what I'm talking about. Oh, you'll still love to do it, and you'll still love the hounds, and you'll love the camaraderie of the hunters, and to see a good dog work, you'll love all that. But you won't be making those 1,000-yard walks or those mile walks in two different directions. And, you'd be daylight every night getting back to the truck. But, yeah, and here's another name, very active in coon hunting, Brett Denny, and Lamar Pettyjohn, who we mentioned already at Somerville, Brett at Shellman. And then here's Jeff Dollar at Carrollton.
And he runs the Georgia State Youth Championship, and he didn't have to do that. He volunteered to take that hunt, and he does a really, really good job with it. And turnout's gone up a lot under his his guidance on that hunt. And he gives it his own date, because it's hard to draw a big audience whenever the state hunt's going down the same night.
Yeah.
It kind of filters out some people who have a dog in the state hunt. So Dollar gave it his own weekend, his own time.
Well, thank you, Jeff. Good job. Thanks to all these guys that helped and stepped up, and I hope, and I know it's probably too early to be really considering this, and I know Caden, you are in college now, and best I remember when I was in college, it took a good bit of my time, and I don't know whether you'll be available to do this again next year. I would hope that you do, but if you don't, I think you told me there might be some guys in the wings that you might be able to call an audible there. And
yes, sir. I've got two guys that, because in order to do this hunt, I'm going to make sure it keeps going right. So I've been very selective in picking, and I've got a couple guys that I know have the time as well as the experience to put on a youth hunt specifically. And I'm going to reach out to both of them and see if one of them wants to take it under the condition that the hunts get spread out over the state to keep everybody involved. But, if one of them wants to take it, we'll keep this thing going for the years to come until I'm out of college, when hopefully I'll take it back.
Well, my word to listeners out there, and this came up in our conversation here today about, maybe you've got a nice hound. It's getting, maybe you've granded the dog out, or you've, a new Super Stakes pups caught your eye and you're not hunting that dog as much as you used to and all, reach out to some youth hunter and, try to pair, the dog will love it. You'll get some more years out of it, but you'll get a whole lot of rewards out of seeing a young person enjoying a good dog and going out and competition hunting. And I just think that there's a whole group of, or I don't know what the word I'm trying to use, but there's a supply of dogs out there that could be in the hands of some of these youth hunters. Now, swing the door the other way. The youth hunters have to be responsible. They have to be young men or women that are willing to take the very best care of that animal, to not put it in an unsafe place, to always go to that dog and to treat that dog, humanely and feed it and give it the vet care it needs and all that. So this thing, there's a lot of responsibility involved. I want to ask Gregory that real quick. Do you enjoy the day in and day out of keeping hounds?
Yes.
You do? You enjoy having them around?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I always
this is off topic, but there was a random question I've been really itching to ask Gregory, if you don't mind me.
Absolutely. You're on the hot seat, Gregory.
Yeah, you're on the hot seat. What was your favorite memory where it really, really hit you about the sport? Was it the first cast win you got qualified? Was it winning the championship? Was it the ride home? Was it the next day? What's the memory that sticks out in your mind of this is pretty cool. I want to keep doing this.
I believe after that double cast win, because I really like Sue. She's what kind of got me started, and she's kind of, after I won it right there, it was very, very memorable.
Good deal. And it's normally the first one rather than the big money one, because the first one always holds like we were talking about how first things are important. The first win that always kind of sticks in your head and gets you hooked and then keeps you going.
Now, remind me here now, was she a dog that you guys, Greg, that you raised from a pup, or did you purchase her later, or how did she come into your lives?
Well, we'd known about her for a while. I bought her from Rudd's Covington. We've had her about 4 years, 3 or 4 years, I think. She's just good. I finally got her bought. I tried for years to get her bought. She's the first time when I started back was her.
And Russ, for as good of a guy he is, getting dogs bought from Russ can be a little bit of a task. He gets attached to them. He likes keeping them.
Yeah.
Challenge.
Yeah.
He had to persevere there a little bit, huh?
Yeah.
Well, that's great. Well, just hats off to you, Caden, and everybody that supported, everybody that donated, everybody that came out and guided a cast or in any way flipped a hamburger in the clubhouse or whatever to make this a success. And it was a success, absolutely. After talking to the winner here and getting his take on it, you're reaching the young hunters with this. And I sure hope that it goes on. And I hope that there's listeners out there right now that would say, hey, I'd like to be involved with something like that. I would like to do that for the youth of my state or my area or my breed or whatever. Caden, are you available for one of these people that gets the message and sees the need? Would you be available to talk to them about this?
Yes, sir. Anytime they want to, and just add me on Facebook or anything like that. Anytime they want to talk about anything involving the youth and getting the youth involved, then I'm free to talk, free to call.
Well, you guys out there hit Caden up. It's Caden, Caden Riley, Riley. And catch him on Facebook, and I'm sure he'll get right back to you. Well, what's the plans there, Greg, for you guys going forward? You got any hunts planned? Well, I think there's one tonight. If I don't get it, let you go. You're not going to be able to make it. Are you going to make the deadline if I let you go here in just a minute?
Yes, sir. I'll make it.
Okay. What is in your future? Do you have any plans?
Well, we'd like to get some of our dogs in the top 16 next year in Georgia. I got one dog that's finished top 16 in Alabama, but that's
that's good. Well, we kind of play that game too. My partner and me. Yeah, so I get it for sure.
And another question for Gregory that I wanted to ask. How does it feel that you may actually have more lifetime earnings than your dad now? That has to feel pretty good, for sure.
It feels pretty good. It really does.
Next time he gives you a tip, tell him that you're the money man of the kennel now.
That's right. Well, if I know, I have a son, and if I know Greg, he's probably prouder of the win, knowing that Gregory has done it than he would be if he'd done it himself.
Yes, sir. I'm real proud of it.
Yeah, I just imagine you are for sure. All right, well, guys, I see your picture here on Caden's page, and there's a trophy and a young man holding a good-looking walker dog, leggy dog, nice black-back dog, and that is Gregory Mitchell hunting Chaos, owned by Russ Covington. And his dad, Greg Mitchell, have been our guest tonight. And I'm just really glad that you guys took the time to visit with us. And Caden, can't say enough about you and all of your planning paid off in a great event. And it's got to be feeling good to you at this point, right?
It does, and I just want to take a final minute before we get off here, because this will probably be the last message I get to send out for this hunt. I just wanted to thank everybody involved, everybody who donated, everybody who hosted, everybody who judged, everybody who got a kid involved. I really wanted to thank you for giving us this platform to make this thing as special as possible for Gregory, as well as every other kid who's going to see and listen to this and want to get involved. And I wanted to thank Greg and Gregory for doing it the right way and being because y'all set the tone really for the rest of for as long as this series goes, y'all are the figureheads for the dad and son combo that won the first hunt. And that's really important to me, that y'all have taken the time to come on here and taking time out of your day to talk about what made y'all love the sport and what made y'all love the series and stuff like that, and how y'all were sportsmen after every cast, and how y'all traveled around, and how y'all did it for the love of the sport and for wanting to get your son Greg involved in the sport and to give him his platform to shine. And I thought it was pretty cool that y'all are the ones who won the first one. I couldn't think of anybody better to do it, so I just wanted to stop for a second and thank y'all for being great first winners of this.
Thank you, Caden. Thank you for making it possible.
You're welcome. It's one of the best experiences I've gotten to have, to see all the father-son and father-daughters as well. We had a 7-year-old girl in the final three, and she was out there trucking it with 4 a.m. leading the pack, actually, on the way back to the truck. So Avery George is her name. Just a quick shout out to her. But it was a cool experience. And for people in other states that are thinking about doing it but don't think they have the youth or don't think they have whatever, just take the leap of faith and trust in the coon hunting world, because more often than not we deliver.
We had a lot of fun. They would never dull moment, was they, Caden?
No, there was never a boring event. There was always there's a story for each event that I could go on for a 24-hour podcast on.
Maybe you need to write an article for Full Cry. I might have a little pull with the editor. We can get it in there. It's a great story from start to finish, and a great finish it was with chaos. He got her done, and congratulations once again to the winner, Gregory Mitchell, and to his dad, Greg, and to Caden Riley for putting on this event. I just thank you fellas so much for coming on the Gone to the Dogs podcast, visiting with me here tonight, and it's been a really good time for me. I will take just a moment to urge all my listeners, if there's any way you can reach out to the houndsmen in Appalachia, especially in western North Carolina and eastern Tennessee, that have been so devastated by this hurricane, reach out. There's a lot of, I'm posting almost daily on my page, Stephen F. Fielder on Facebook, ways that you can contact people there. The Houndsman XP podcast has set up a Amazon gift page where you can go in there and you just click on the gifts that you want to send. The things that all the items are on there are necessities, whether it's well, without going into it all, but anything that a person that's lost everything could certainly use. I do want to thank my sponsor, W Hunting Supply, dusupply.com, and also Alpha Dog Nutrition, and Zepp's Predator Calls, Big Mark Zepp, for making this podcast possible. For Caden Riley, Greg and Gregory Mitchell, I'm Steve Fielder. If you wonder where this gang of outlaws is hanging out, just it'll be something associated with the dogs, because, as the podcast says, they've gone to the dogs. That's it for tonight, folks, and thank you so much for listening.